What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be breaking down all of the weapons that we currently have access to in Splitgate's beta, and I'm going to be going through all of their characteristics and stats and everything to find out which one is best. And to be completely honest with you guys right up front here, I don't necessarily think there is one best gun that fits everybody. Unlike many shooters out there, with Splitgate, when it comes to the weapons, each of them are designed to be very unique. They have their own unique characteristics and they play completely different, and therefore in many ways it's hard to directly compare guns to each other. And this means the best gun for me may not be the best gun for you, so the primary purpose of this video is to show you guys exactly how each of these guns work, to help give you a much better understanding so you can make better decisions for which guns you personally will like to use. So without further ado, let's just hop right into the first weapon, and this is the Carbine. Now the Carbine is sort of the standard all-around gun that you're going to be spawning with in many game modes. And with this, it is semi-auto, it's got a rate of fire capacity of about 158 rounds per minute, it deals 30 damage anywhere in the body and then 40 damage to the head, and it has no range drop-off as far as I can tell, so it deals that same damage at any range. Now in Splitgate, by default at least, players have 100 health, and what this means is it's going to be a 4-shot kill to the body with the Carbine, or if you mix just one headshot in with those body shots, you can actually get a 3-shot kill. So our base time to kill potential is just over 1100 milliseconds. However, with that one single headshot mixed in, we cut this all the way down to 759 milliseconds. I should also point out that multiple headshots don't really matter. You really only need to mix one headshot in, and any more than that is going to be unnecessary. But in either case, it is still a good habit to be aiming for the head. As for its magazine capacity, this is 15 rounds, and its reload time is 1.64 seconds, which is pretty slow compared to the other weapons. Now, another characteristic that's important to point out for Splitgate is with the Carbine, you can aim down sight or hip fire if you want, and as far as I can tell at least, you are just as accurate hip firing as aiming down sight. So basically, aiming down sight just gives you a higher zoom, so you can see your target a bit easier, but it doesn't actually affect the performance of the gun while aiming down sight. So that's a Carbine, pretty basic all-around semi-auto. Now let's move on to the Assault Rifle, and with this one, it's full auto, and our rate of fire is 583 rounds per minute. And up close, in the maximum damage range, we deal 13 damage to the body, as well as 18 damage to the head. And this means it's going to be an 8-shot kill to the body up close, but it has a damage drop-off. And at its minimum damage, we're going to be dealing 11 damage to the body, which means it'll be a 10-shot kill at longer ranges. So our time to kill potential up close is 720 milliseconds, and at a distance, it's 926 milliseconds. It's also worth noting, up close, if we mix 2 headshots in with body shots, we can reduce the number of shots to kill, and at a distance, just one single headshot mixed in will cut that down to a 9-shot kill. Now, as for this damage drop-off range, this is a linear drop-off that starts at roughly 10.5 meters, and it drops off pretty quickly after that. But a big thing to keep in mind with my range values here is they are estimates, because as far as I'm aware at least, we don't have a super accurate method of measuring or detecting distances. So I did have to go to the firing range, and I made some estimates. I created my own scale, so at the very least, all of my comparisons are going to be accurate with each other. It's just the values themselves might not be perfectly accurate. Now, our magazine capacity is 30 rounds, and our reload add time is faster than the Carbine, but still slower than a lot of the other guns at 1.49 seconds. And just like with the Carbine, I was actually surprised to see we can hipfire or ADS, and our hipfire is just as accurate as aiming down sight. I really didn't think this was the case. I thought we had a lot of hipfire spread with the Assault Rifle. Aiming down sight really just improves your magnification and doesn't impact the accuracy of your gun at all. So that's a big thing to be aware of. The default reticle that you see in the game doesn't necessarily represent your hipfire spread, as one might assume. But that's the Assault Rifle. Now let's move on to the Battle Rifle, and this is a 3-round burst rifle. And within the burst itself, it's an extremely fast fire rate. It's about 1200 rounds per minute. It's just insanely fast. And then we've got a 400 millisecond delay between each burst. And that's quite a long delay, so it is fairly unforgiving. If you are missing your bursts, it's definitely unforgiving when it comes to that. But with this, we deal 15 damage to the body and 25 to the head at any range. And what this means is if we're just getting body shots, it's going to take us 7 shots to kill, so 3 bursts to kill. And that's going to give us a time to kill potential of about 1 second or 1000 milliseconds, which is fairly slow. However, if we mix just one single headshot in there, we can now get a 2-burst kill, which will give us a time to kill potential of 600 milliseconds, which is actually very, very good. So this is considered a high-risk, high-reward sort of a weapon, where it's got a great time to kill potential if you're hitting those headshots, but it's extremely unforgiving and it requires that precision. Now, just like with the Assault Rifle, the Battle Rifle has a magazine capacity of 30 rounds, and our reload time is actually very fast at 1.12 seconds. So that's a huge upside to using this. You can reload it very, very quickly. And again, just like with the previous two weapons, hip firing seems to be just as accurate as aiming down sight. So aiming down sight is just for magnification, nothing else. But next up, let's move on to the pistol. And with this one, it's quite interesting. It is a semi-auto pistol, and you can't aim down sight with it. It is hip fire only. However, it does have a very tight and accurate hip fire spread, so it's still pretty much perfectly accurate while hip firing. It's just you don't have the ability to aim down sight to get that extra zoom. Now with this, it's going to be a 6-shot kill up close, but that will drop off to an 8-shot kill, and that damage drop-off point starts at about 8.5 meters. So the range isn't as good as the assault rifle, as you would expect. And what this means is our time to kill potential up close is 744 milliseconds, which is not too bad, but it also doesn't really stand out a whole lot. And then at range, it's going to be 1042 milliseconds, which is quite slow. It's also worth noting that with the pistols, at close range as well as the longest ranges, it's going to take you 3 headshots mixed in with body shots in order for that to reduce the number of shots to kill. So it's not quite as forgiving in the headshot department as many of the other guns. But finally, our magazine capacity on the pistol is 12 rounds, and our reload time is just 1 second, which is very, very fast. It's actually the fastest reloading gun in the game. As for the next weapon, though, this is the SMG. And with this, it's full auto with quite a fast fire rate at 923 rounds per minute. However, just like the pistol, it's hipfire only, and it's got the largest hipfire spread in the game, which means it's not super accurate while hipfiring, and you're going to have a hard time hitting people at longer ranges. But I should also say that the hipfire isn't quite as bad as the default reticle makes it out to be. So at least up close and personal, you should still be able to hit your shots very consistently. It's just if you're trying to pick somebody off across the map, it's going to be a complete gamble as to whether or not your shot is going to hit. But with this, it's going to be a 10-shot kill to the body up close. And then at about 8 meters, which is actually a shorter range than the pistol, it starts to drop off all the way down to the point where it's going to be a 15-shot kill to the body at its longest ranges, which is a lot of shots to kill, especially when you consider the fact that the further you get away, the less likely you are to even be hitting your shots in the first place. But what this means for our time to kill potential is up close, our time to kill potential is actually incredible at 585 milliseconds. That's a very fast time to kill for this game. And then at a distance, assuming every one of our 15 shots hits consecutively, it'll be a 910 millisecond time to kill. But like I said, those shots aren't going to be all landing consecutively. So our practical time to kill potential is going to be significantly higher than that. But finally with the SMG, one of the big upsides is we get a 50-round magazine, which is great. And our reload time is just 1.15 seconds, which is also excellent. So with the SMG in general, it's quite dominant up close, as you would expect out of an SMG. However, it's practically useless at longer ranges. So you are limiting yourself quite a bit in exchange for a great time to kill potential up close and personal. But finally, for what I consider to be the standard weapons in the game, not the special weapons, we've got the sniper rifle. And with this, our rate of fire is very slow at 70 rounds per minute, as you would expect. And we deal 65 damage to the body and 150 damage to the head at any range. And this means in the standard modes against somebody with standard health, it's always a 1-shot kill to the head no matter what. And it'll be a 2-shot kill to the body. Now, it is interesting, even if we're just getting body shots and we just get a 2-shot kill to the body, assuming we're firing as fast as possible with this, our time to kill potential isn't completely terrible. It's 857 milliseconds. So the sniper rifle is actually somewhat viable even if you're just hitting body shots. Now that's not to say I would recommend going for body shots with this. You should always be trying to hit that headshot unless you see somebody is hurt already. But I just wanted to point out, getting that second shot off can actually work for you. Now once again, just like with the first few guns that we covered, you can hip fire or aim down sight with the sniper rifle, and you're going to be just as accurate in either case. So aiming down sight only gives us extra zoom. You may as well just hip fire with this if you're comfortable hip firing with this. However, I have found at extremely long ranges, at least, it is helpful to aim down sight just to get that extra zoom level. Now, aside from that, we've got a 4-round magazine and a reload time of 1.39 seconds, and there's not too much else to say about the sniper rifle. It's a fairly basic gun. Try to hit those headshots, but even if you don't, hitting the body shots is just fine. But with that, let's move on to what I consider to be more of the specialty weapons. First up, we've got the rocket launcher, and with this one, we deal 150 damage if the player is within about a 2-meter radius of that explosion. So this means it will be a 1-hit kill against a standard health enemy. However, beyond 2 meters, we start to drop off with our damage, and it will drop all the way down to 50 damage at about 2.5 meters, and then beyond 2.5 meters, we literally don't deal any damage at all to the enemy player. So you do have to be relatively precise with the rocket launcher, but if you are going to be rewarded for that with very consistent 1-hit kills. And there's really not a whole lot to mention aside from the fact that we get 2 rockets per reload. So you can fire those 2 rockets at 60 rounds per minute. So 1 rocket every second you can fire, and then it will take 2 seconds to reload both of those rockets after you fire the second one. Then let's get into the Railgun, and right now the Railgun is extremely powerful in Splitgate. I would probably say this is the best all-around weapon currently, and probably the most annoying to die to as well, because there's not a whole lot of counterplay, it feels like. And the reason for this is it deals 150 damage anywhere in the body or head at any range, which means it's a guaranteed one-hit kill as long as you're getting a hit against a standard health enemy. However, the unique characteristic to this is it does have a charge up time. So when you pull the trigger, it doesn't fire immediately. You have to actually hold the trigger for a full second, and after 1 second has elapsed, this is when the gun will fire. So that's the one thing that keeps this in check. You have to keep your aim on target as you're charging that shot up until it actually releases. And then also I should mention, after you fire your first shot, there's about a 0.75 second delay before you can start charging up your next shot. So the time between each shot is going to be 1.75 seconds. So it's not super forgiving if you happen to miss that shot, but as long as you're hitting your shots with this thing, you're going to be practically unstoppable. But after that, we've got the plasma rifle, and this one's quite interesting. It is a full auto gun, and it has a rate of fire of 571 rounds per minute, so a little bit slower than the assault rifle, but pretty comparable. And with this, it's hip fire only, and it has a very slow projectile velocity. You can actually watch those projectiles slowly go toward your target, so you will have to account for like leading a moving target, for instance, unlike most of the other guns where you just point and shoot at them. However, these projectiles that you're firing appear to have quite a large hitbox on them, and therefore you don't have to be quite as precise with your shots as you would with an assault rifle, for instance. As long as that projectile is getting quite close to your enemy, it's going to be dealing damage to them. And with this, we deal 17 damage to the body or the head. We don't get a headshot multiplier, and this applies at all ranges, so there's no damage drop off here. And what this means is it's going to be a 6-shot kill, and our time to kill potential is going to be 525 milliseconds, which is, again, insanely fast. This is actually faster than the SMG. And therefore, if you're good at leading your target properly and you can hit your shots consistently, this has a very, very fast time to kill potential that most of the regular guns can't compete with. Really, only the SMG can be somewhat competitive with this, if we're just talking strictly time to kill up close. Now, another interesting thing with the plasma rifle is we don't have ammo. We have infinite ammo with it. However, it can overheat if you're firing too many rounds consecutively. And based on my testing, you can fire 20 rounds continuously until it will overheat. Obviously, you can stop firing a little bit in between and let it cool down by itself, and then you can start firing again. But if it overheats, our recovery time is 3.1 seconds, which is very slow. This is much slower than the reload time of every other gun in the game. So you definitely want to try to avoid overheating this thing, because it is quite punishing if you do. And finally, when it comes to the guns of Splitgate, we've got the shotgun. And with the shotgun, we're firing 7 pellets every time we pull the trigger. And these pellets are actually in a perfect hexagon, and then 1 extra pellet right in the middle of where your point of aim was. So we get a really consistent pellet spread, which I like. And up close, we're going to be dealing 25 damage per pellet to the body, which means if every pellet hits, it's going to be 175 damage. And that means, of course, against a standard health enemy, it's a one-shot kill. But it's also worth noting, we do get a headshot multiplier. And if you manage to hit every pellet to the head, you can deal 210 damage with a single shot. So if you're playing something like VIP or Oddball, where enemies have boosted health, you can still get a one-shot kill on them, as long as you're up close and every pellet is hitting their head. Now, this maximum damage range starts to drop off at about 3 meters, which might sound bad. However, our one-shot kill potential with the shotgun, assuming we're hitting as many pellets as possible, so you have to be very precise with your shot and maybe even a little bit lucky, your one-shot kill potential is about 8.5 meters, which is incredible for this shotgun. Anything beyond that 8.5 meters, though, this is where the shotgun really falls apart, because you can no longer ensure that you're hitting any more than like 2 to 3 pellets anyway. And then also your damage drops off pretty steeply. So the effective range of this is about 8.5 meters. But within that 8.5 meters, you will be completely untouchable. Even from something like an SMG or a plasma rifle, which have a great time to kill potential in this game, they won't stand a chance against a shotgun user within about 8.5 meters. Now with the shotgun, one of the things that keeps it in check is you only get 3 shells in the magazine at a time. And our total reload time for 3 shells is going to be just over 2 seconds. However, it's interesting to note with the shotgun, if you just consistently keep loading 1 shell in and then firing the moment it loads, you're actually going to get pretty much the same rate of fire anyway, at right around 60 rounds per minute or 1 shot per second, So it's actually not that punishing. You can just continue a streak or a spree, continually firing your shotgun. As long as every time you fire your last shot, you're reloading the next shell and then firing immediately, you can keep that same fire rate up, which is a little bit ridiculous in my opinion, and perhaps could use some slight tuning. But with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on all of the stats and characteristics of every one of the guns in Splitgate currently. Keeping in mind, this is from the beta build of the game, and some of this stuff will likely change over time. Now, of course, I'd like to hear in the comments section below, what is your favorite gun to be using in Splitgate? Maybe give me your favorite regular gun, so the first section that I covered, and then what is your favorite special weapon? I'm actually really curious to see what you guys lean toward. Now, if you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.